Good morning. Welcome to Dispatch Radio. This is Brandon Jones, and we are the globaldispatch.com. If you've been listening to Outbreak News in the Week with Robert Harriman, my co-host, he has exited the studio to go off to a great event this morning with the church. In the studio with me this morning will just be my daughter. She's here working on her Knitting Hope hats. So if you know anything about Knitting Hopes, you want to find out more, there is a little link there on the globaldispatch.com where they make these hats, and they go to cancer patients and newborns at some of the local hospitals. So it's an amazing little outreach that she works with. So we have a great show for you this morning. We have a guest at about 20 after the hour. His name is Michael Grabham. He is the co-founder of SurviveTheStreets.org. It is a new crowdfunding charity group, nonprofit, to help reach out to folks that are in need of some different things. We'll talk to him about what his organization does and what they're trying to accomplish. And of course, one of our favorites, Mike Smith from MediaMikes.com, will be on catching us up with some of the latest in movie news. We'll talk about some of the breaking news. It's been a very busy week in movie news this week, so we'll probably talk to Mike about a lot of that stuff too. So you can go to our globaldispatch.com. There's bars across the top there. You can check out some of the different categories. If you'd like to call in and talk about anything, 727-441-3000, 1-866-826-1340. You can't keep up with me. Dispatch Radio logo there on the globaldispatch.com. Click that, and you can find the different featured stories and links to everything we're going to talk about. So the news this week has really circled around the Obamacare rolling out here, having the new healthcare.gov website and some of the different glitches and problems. And our president gave a very extensive speech on this, trying to encourage everyone. And nothing could be greater than when you've lost Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart, of course, on Comedy Central, is a long-standing vocal Democrat and supporter of the president. And this week had a few critical things to say about Obamacare and the rollout. And Bill's going to start going through clips with me here. We're going to catch you up on this because this is just absolutely awesome. Bill, let's go to clip one.
All the Democrats have to do to gain like an 80% to 20% advantage in this country, all that stands in their way is a mildly competent implementation of the health care policy they battled so hard to keep. Let's take a look.
The word glitch has been used by the White House.
That sounds promising. Let's hear more.
Healthcare.gov has been plagued by glitches.
Riddled with glitches.
Glitches.
Snafu.
The bugs, the kinks, whatever you want to call this.
Glitches. Yes, apparently the healthcare.gov website has 99 problems, but a glitch is all of them.
All right, that's clip one.
Which?
Glitches. Lots of glitches.
Yes,
lots of problems. So, yeah, we'll pick that up just a second here. I tell you what, he's just cracking me up because it's been one thing after another. He dives into some of those details, but you've heard the stories of people trying to go on. They can't get on. Sean Hannity called the hotline and got a lady fired because she admitted that the site was going to be down for 42 hours. 42 hours. That this is on the heels of the president reassuring us all about the website and how great this is going to be, and that you had to have already pre-registered to be able to sign up via phone. So you were basically shut down, pretty much out of the loop. So I don't want to take away from Stewart's monologue because it's fantastic. Go to clip two.
So, turns out the Obamacare rollout was plagued by a lot more than just glitches. So much so, the President of the United States, who, as you know, does not usually man this country's IT support center, summoned us all this morning to the Rose Garden for a little Glengarry Glen Ross closer's spiel.
The Affordable Care Act is not just a website. The health insurance that's available to people is working just fine. Instead of paying $1,600 per month, we have a plan that will only cost us $692 a month. And that's a good deal. The product is good. I want people to be able to get this great product. And that product is working. It's really good.
When did the President of the United States turn into Gil from The Simpsons?
fantastic.
She's a beauty. You can't beat a Coleco. How many can I put you down for? A lot? Please say a lot. I need this.
If you see this clip, folks, you'll see it. He plays the Simpsons clip where they're trying to buy a computer and the guy's trying to sell him a Coleco. Those of us that are old enough to even remember a Coleco, Bill's nodding in the sound room. That's some old school references right there. But yeah, Glitches, buy our product. The product that cost, by the way, the website, just so you know, we're going to come back around to this, $634 million. More than LinkedIn and Spotify combined. We spent on a website that has 1990s technology that is so primitive and juvenile. Stewart closes out by going to a Tron reference. So let's go to the third clip. It's always fantastic.
Well, our own John Oliver has been trying to sign up for Obamacare. He joins us right now. John!
Just to explain the visuals, they cut to the scene, and John's not in the room. It's just empty. There's no one sitting there. Where's John?
Leave, John, please.
He's inside, dressed as Tron, inside in front of the code of the computer.
Healthcare.gov, just like you asked.
Thanks.
I gave them all my information. I pressed enter. There was a giant sucking sound. Next thing I knew, I was inside their website, John. I'm stuck in here. It's awful. It's horrible in here.
Wow, so there are still a few glitches.
Glitches? Glitch? Look at me, John. I didn't get a 404 file unfound screen. I got sucked into the mainframe. Glitches.
Is that code behind you? Is that code?
Yeah.
Isn't that supposed to be zeros and ones?
Yeah,
I think
it's 4s and 5s here, John.
It's fantastic. You got to stop it right there. There are a couple of bleeped out profanity moments, but these videos are absolutely fantastic. He is ripping apart the Obamacare rollout, the glitches, if you will, with the healthcare.gov website. It's all 4s and 5s. That's become my new little catchphrase about how messed up things are, man. It's all 4s and 5s in there. Bill, is it all 4s and 5s in there? Are you okay in there?
Yeah, it's all 4s and 5s.
It's all 4s and 5s in here.
Yeah, you can't talk to Pelosi and Boehner when they're coming out the secret exit. You know, you got to stand over where the media is. It's all 4s and 5s.
Yeah, it's all 4s and 5s in here. So, if you haven't thought this through, you realize that Stewart almost certainly got a phone call from the White House following this sequence. It's 10 minutes of just railing on the administration. And how do we know the administration would do such a thing? Because Bob Beckel this week, a Democratic campaign manager, came out and said that he was, quote, bludgeoned by a phone call from a White House by just suggesting that they delay the rollout, delay the mandates and all of those things for 6 months. Just delay it because it was, quote, making the president and the party look bad. White House went after him. There's a CNN rep that did this exact same thing. And then more to the point of Stewart's amazing skit is the fact that we did come out this week. We had some technical folks that came out and came forward and said that the administration had gone forward with this rollout, moving Obamacare forward, even though all of the tests had failed. So they know the thing wasn't going to work. They know they've got 4s and 5s in there, if you will, and they ran it out anyway. It's got 1990s technology in this thing. All of our healthcare information is running through this archaic computer program that cost, I can't even believe $500 million. Folks, oh my gosh, what are we doing? This is just makes your head want to explode. You know, we couldn't have made 500 millionaires. We had to do this, build this horrible website that doesn't even work. And I know. It's not designed to work. I got it. So let me move on to the socialists in the news. We need a soundbite for that. We'll have to come up with a soundbite for socialists in the news, since we know over the next year, I firmly believe that more of them will come out and be honest with us about actually being socialists and join the likes of Larry O'Donnell, Lawrence O'Donnell from MSNBC. We have a new socialist in the news, Russell Brand. Yes, Russell Brand, the famous Hollywood actor and comedian, has come out calling for, quote, a socialist egalitarian system based on massive redistribution of wealth, heavy taxation of corporation, and massive responsibilities for energy companies and having any companies exploiting the environment. I think the very concept of profit should be hugely reduced. Thank you for that, Russell Brand. I don't think I'm going to go to many of his films now. Russell Brand, our socialist in the news this week. So we'll have to come up with a soundbite for a little intro there. We'll put that on our to-do list of things to come up with. I thought, in contradiction to a socialist in the news comment and remark, I'd come up with something that I found very interesting. A very bold move by a Pennsylvanian Republican. He's pushed forth a bill to have the U.S. motto, "In God We Trust," posted in all of the public schools. It's mandatory that it'll be posted in all the schools. Of course, you know he's going to get attacked and sued by every atheist group that you can think of. They'll all come after this guy and this bill. But his argument is, let me get to the exact quote so I don't mess it up any more than I normally do. It says, it is displaying our national motto. So they can have Harry Potter on the walls, zombies and witches on brooms, and not the national motto. It would just be posted in the building somewhere so the kids know what the story behind it is. And then the reason he's doing that, he talks about the history comes out of Pennsylvania's heritage. The patriotism that led to the national motto is directly linked to the history for Pennsylvanians. So it's not about being a pro-religion or anything like that. It is just the national motto. So it's a different angle on a battle that has been really brewing and raging now for the last few years. And it'll be very interesting to see how this story will shape up a little differently than some of the others. But I will guarantee you will have Americans United, the church separation of church and state groups, everyone you can possibly think of coming out of the woodwork because they would not want to have the word God on public land. Bill, you're going to chime in. You got that look?
Yeah, what about the lady who was in the service and she passed away? And her family, she was a big SpongeBob fan. They put a SpongeBob thing in the cemetery and they removed it. Did you see that?
Yeah, they told them they can't have the big giant. It's really, really massive, though. It was a huge, massive SpongeBob tombstone. I know my daughter's cheering. I got a reaction from the SpongeBob fans to the front row. And no, get SpongeBob out of here. No SpongeBob. I don't understand why we can't do that. But I guess it's technically the cemetery's rule. Cemetery has the rights, I guess, coordinate some of that. So I guess if we can get permission to bury someone in your own backyard or have them cremated, and then you can have SpongeBob tombstone in your backyard. So maybe that's what I'll do. I will have a special themed based tombstone in our backyard when I pass away. I want a really big one. Maybe I'll get like a Batman statue or something really, really... No, my wife's even shaking her head no from the other room. How about something that ties into the website, like a laptop under one arm, a microphone in the air, get my shirt blowing open with Dispatch Radio blazoned on my chest. That's the tombstone. Sierra's nodding. My wife won't have a say. I'll get my kids to do it. Though, we'll put it in Sierra's yard behind the house. Why is there this giant bronze statue?
Aye, Captain.
Yeah, SpongeBob. No SpongeBob. We can't have SpongeBob. That's not going to fly. So we will go ahead and take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to have Michael. He's going to talk to us about his new group and new organization and helping homeless folks.
There's a great youth mentorship program in the greater Tampa Bay area. Mission Flight United is a nonprofit organization which reaches out to kids, especially teens, who love aviation and want to fly. Whether they have an interest in helicopters, fixed-wing airplanes, or aviation mechanics, Mission Flight United offers education, flight simulation, and great life application skills to help in all of these areas. For more information on their weekly classes or to make a tax-deductible donation, contact the instructor, Dana Walker, at 207-233-0669. With every $50 donation, you get a 1-hour demonstration and can schedule a flight with Dana to see for yourself what Mission Flight United has to offer. Again, call Dana at 207-233-0669 or simply Google Mission Flight United.
This is Brandon from Dispatch Radio, and you probably hate taking your vehicle to the shop just about as much as I do. That little noise, that wobble, that rattling sound, well, we know it's probably something really bad, so we put it off and put it off. But I'm here to tell you about my friends over at Stouts Auto. Whether it be brakes, alignment, tires, AC, these are folks who just want to get you in and get you out, treat you right doing it. They have 2 locations in the area, 18300 US 19 North in Clearwater and 1801 Belcher and Largo. There's 2 numbers, 727-4 727-400-6955 in Largo, 727-475-6006. Check them out. Give them a call. You can go to their website at stoutsauto.com. Tell them the Global Dispatch sent you.
You're listening to Dispatch Radio, sponsored by theGlobalDispatch.com.
Welcome back to Dispatch Radio. This is Brandon Jones. Our guest that we had scheduled is not contacted us and not answering his phone. So on we go to theGlobalDispatch.com. If you feel free to join us, let's do a little navigation and a little tutorial on the site how this works. There's a black bar there that hits you up with all the major categories, all the different stories in the news. And we are a Google News recognized website, so everything we do and bring you is try to be as timely as we can. We have a lot of great writers and contributors. If you're familiar with the Outbreak News of the Week with Robert Harriman, Mr. Worms and Germs network of information, he has his show here 7:30 right before Dispatch Radio. And all of his work, amazing coverage of different illnesses and diseases and things that are going on around the globe can all be caught here. So with that, you'll also see a hometown news section. And in that, it kind of takes you to some of the big states and by states, some of the top stories and that kind of thing. And what I wanted to do was take you with have you go with me there. We're going to go to New York. And a feel-good story. We tend to jump over that a little bit from time to time. We tend to focus on negatives, blood and guts, bleeds it leads, that kind of stuff. But a former Marine there had a great story. His name is Mark Atkinson. A fire had broken out, and he basically ended up catching children who were being thrown out the window to save them by their parents from the second floor. It's great. He says, I started to call 911 until I heard, help me, and I saw this wife and husband in the window. They're on the second floor. Everything was chaotic. That's when I started catching all the kids. So he ended up saving these children. The black smoke is everywhere and all of that. Not only does that seem remarkable to be able to be, he reacts, he does his thing. He even said, I immediately was taken back to my Marine training as he responded. Oh, it doesn't end there because the fire's spreading. So he actually goes to the neighbor's house and rescues the grandfather who lives in the basement. So they have like the basement made out to be like a room, like a living room area. And the poor elderly man is trapped down there. He's trapped in the bathroom. He's trying to carve out the bathroom window. And this man goes over there and basically just breaks it all open as this smoke's billowing out everywhere around his head. Please help me. And, kudos to Mark Atkinson. We don't tend to throw these names out there. We tend not to necessarily focus on these positive stories, but this is one that leapt out to me. We had that coverage out there in the New York section, so you'll see that as the top story there. Sadly, the story in Ohio. Ohio's a very strange state, folks, for you don't know about news. We get all sorts of bizarre swings in the news from Ohio for some reason. I don't know why that is, but Ohio and Tennessee are two of these really big swings of the news are very strange. So you have a great positive story, and then like within hours, you'll have some crazy negative. So this is an Ohio story of this man who attends church. He begins heckling the pastor at some point, talking about Hitler and all sorts of craziness. I have no idea. It doesn't make any real sense. And I guess the pastor, I don't know if they're regulars at the church or not and what's going on here, but he starts talking to him, and he asks the girlfriend, makes a comment about the girlfriend, if she feels safe, something wrong. I don't know what kind of signs that he's giving the pastor. The man completely snaps and just starts pummeling and beating the pastor nearly to death. Completely comes unglued. This guy comes completely out of his mind, nearly beats this poor man, this poor pastor, in his own church. Now, they're not even off church property when all of this happens. And I think the police officer even comments, it's one of the worst things I've ever seen as far as beatings go where someone survived. And it's on church ground. So you can catch that story too as well. And let's just, continue to lift up Pastor Norman. Norman Hayes is his full name, Pastor Norman Hayes. Because he's got a lot of recovery to go through, and just a horrible scene that definitely changed there. So as far as the website goes, theGlobalDispatch.com, we have an interesting and yet somewhat disturbing headline this week. from Homeland Security I wanted to get to real quick. Coming on the heels of government shutdown, coming on the heels of debt crisis and debt ceiling discussion, Homeland Security immediately has hired $80 million. Well, not hired, hiring. You can apply for a job, Bill. $80 million in armed guards. I want to go down some of the job descriptions here just so you know who you'll be protecting. They will be required to be armed. Some may require screening of visitors using X-ray or magneto monitors. I guess we're going to use magnets as well as X-rays to screen people, which is fine. Increased security has to do with the extension of different buildings, high-profile visitors, and then, quote, protecting areas such as the IRS building during tax season. We don't want you storming the tax building. Or emergency services, so large-scale natural disasters or, quote, civil disturbances. $75 to $80 million for folks to be protecting the IRS and civil disturbances. What are they expecting to be coming, folks? What should we be asking ourselves, right? We should be wondering what it is they think we're going to be doing that they need to have $75 to $80 million worth of armed protection. I skipped over a story I had flagged for the Obamacare conversation, just so we're clear on how bad the effects are of Obamacare. And I am very thoughtful and minded of folks that don't have insurance. And I really hope that you will seek out your local Medicaid office and get whatever coverage and tests that you need, because that's the program I believe you should be going through. Because in Indiana, the health network there is cutting 295 jobs immediately. These were cutbacks there that they are attributing directly to Obamacare and Obamacare's guidelines. And they said, quote, the Franciscan Alliance has not been immune to such pressures and found it necessary to align staffing levels to reflect the, quote, lower patient volumes and reduced industry-wide reimbursements. People aren't coming, and they're not getting paid when they come. So guess what's going to happen, folks? Just like in Europe, all the conspiracy theory people that, crazy like me, that said, you know what's going to happen? You're going to run out of doctors and nurses. They're going to switch and get away from general health care. They're going to switch and get away from helping the general average Joe, because they're going to go into specialized fields where they can make enough money to pay not only their student loans back, but their incredibly, ridiculously overpriced malpractice insurance, because they get sued for every little tiny thing you could possibly imagine done wrong. So you can check this out, globaldispatch.com. Again, if you click the Dispatch Radio, some of these I have hyperlinked. I'm running through so many stories so quickly. You might find one or two I don't have hyperlinked there. I apologize for that, but you can go to the globaldispatch.com. And again, in the search boxes, you'll see a search the news. You'll see you can type in whatever keywords you want to put in there. And I'd encourage you, if you could share things to Facebook, Twitter, whatever social media stuff that you are currently engaged in. And, get our stuff out there. We appreciate that so much. So I want to go now to a blog, and I want to, again, give out the phone numbers, because I want you to be able to call in if you have a bullying story. Maybe you were bullied, your child was bullied, a issue with a teacher. I wrote a blog this week about bullying. The number to call is 727-441-3000, 727-441-3000, 866-826-1340. There's two stories in particular that drove me to put this together. And I think I asked my son to call in because I wanted to talk about his personal experiences a little bit. So I don't know if he's going to remember to do that. But we had a first story in California where the middle schoolers were assigned to read something nonfiction for 30 minutes. And this student had read the Bible and came back to class and was being told that's not an acceptable thing. And had the teacher probably left it there, I don't know that anything would have come of it. I mean, I don't agree with the teacher not putting that provision out front and then trying to basically judge the student because he doesn't believe that way. But no, that the California teacher then stood up in front of the class and humiliated the student. Had to do the hand-raising poll to discover that only 2 kids agreed with him, and just embarrassed this poor child. So that was one. And then, of course, in Florida, because Florida, we can't escape the ridiculous news. So, yeah, Florida's there. they have a teacher who has a long, long track record. His name is Greg Sims. He's duct taped the mouth and ultimately this child to a chair. And all he has received is 2 weeks of suspension. So we have a call. Who do we have with us? Jake, you with me, bud?
Hey, good morning.
Jake's normally in the studio with me. He's got an appointment to get to later today, enjoying himself. And my son, when he was in elementary school, really had he was going through martial arts training and really was taught very vigorously about not being aggressive, not using what he was being taught on other kids and that kind of thing. But many times when other kids would start and pick on him, he wouldn't protect himself. And then ultimately, we had an issue with a teacher, and we didn't know a lot of this when it was actually happening. We kind of were learning some of this stuff after the fact. So I wanted to ask Jake and encourage him to talk about, first, Jake, what was about your early memories of, let's say, with some of these other kids? You know, what were they saying and doing to you, picking on you, bullying on you?
Well, I think the biggest thing is they were all bigger than me. I was kind of a small fry, so I was more of an easy target. Looked at as I can't protect myself, so of course, you know, who are they going to pick on? They're not going to go to the big kid who'll pummel them. It wasn't, you know, it starts early. It's not really anything mean. You know, it's kindergarten language. It's like, you know, you're a poopy head, and it's really nothing. But especially as the years progressed, it got generally worse, where it got into not just words but physical contact. And like you said, I really never protected myself, and what happened the one time I did, I ended up in detention because, you know, the kid slapped my face. Well, I hit him back, and
they put both of you in detention.
Yeah, they put us in detention. So.
Right. And that's the frustrating part about that. And again, you had the one kid that grabbed you by the throat.
Right, yeah.
You had been kicked and all that kind of stuff. This is all what, 3rd, 4th grade, right?
Yeah, this is, you know, we're children.
Yeah, really young. Now, I want to go to your teacher. I don't really want to name him by name, but things really got different here, and that's where I want to talk about your math teacher and some of the things that he said and did to you.
Well, I still don't completely understand it, but the man just didn't like me. I don't understand why. You know, I always treated him with respect. I never acted out of line, especially in his class. You know, I walk in, how you doing, sir? That kind of thing. Well, he just really didn't seem to like me, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not really sure why. But later on in the school year, I did find out, and this is pretty much what he told me. He said to me, you know, I was going to put you in honors class, but I decided to hold you back. And I didn't really ever get a reason. You know, I didn't, he never gave me a reason about any of this kind of stuff. It was just plain out thing that he said to me. And I honestly can't tell you why he did, but.
Well, more specifically, I think when we're talking about math in particular, and you had told us how he had, you know, kind of called you stupid. Right?
Oh,
yeah, I mean, it was kind of regularly like, oh, you're just not smart enough to handle this. You're not smart enough to handle that. And you weren't telling us any of this.
Oh, no.
Well, but I mean, we didn't know. And, you know, what's happening is, how do you feel about math now?
Oh, I mean, it's not difficult necessarily. But then again, I think his teaching method was so different, you know. He focused on the kids who could take it, you know, who could handle it and stuff. He never really hold on, the
dog. Jake has let my household, a family of animals, go crazy on us there in the background. But Jake, you talk about his tactics and that kind of thing, and we talk about how you had told us about how he had, you know, he called you names and that kind of thing. But he did this kind of like to all the students. It wasn't like he kind of pointed you out, but that was after the fact. He'd kind of sifted through, quote, smarter kids versus dumber kids is how that's kind of how he put it, right?
There was like 3 kids in the class that were just absolute geniuses. So, you know, he focused more on them, and everyone else who really didn't know what he was doing, he didn't take the time to, you know, go one-on-one with you, teach you, figure something out, talk to the parents, whatever he could do to help you learn. He just basically let you slide. One of the biggest things he told us, the class, was, I'm basically getting you ready for the FCAT so you can move on. And that's all the school year was used for.
Do you remember him saying things that were particularly mean or something that still stands out to you?
Not really. The biggest thing I remember is when I like I said, when I walk in, I say hi to him. He never really gave me, you know, he just kind of grunted or nodded. He never gave me a reaction.
Did you ever hear any teachers do anything like that?
No, not really.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know too much else, but when you hear a story like this, don't you just shake your head like, what is wrong with you? Why are you still teaching?
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Let me go to a letter. This was emailed to us at the Global Dispatch as I posted the story, and Jake, you can kind of speak to this as well. And she wrote, Brandon, I could not agree with you more. This is about my the essay, if you will, that I put together, ranting and raving about teachers and humiliating children. It says, I'm a parent of 3 children, 2 of which attend Lake Brantley High School, where the duct tape incident happened. Actually, only 1 now attends. The other 2 homeschools, as he cannot withstand the, quote, verbal abuse given at the hands of a few select teachers over the past few years. So they got some sort of problem there that this parent has pulled out 2 of their kids.
Right.
It breaks my heart because his spirit is broken, possibly forever. Once a straight-A student, now he struggles to find a reason to stay in school. I want to stop there because that spirit is broken, and whether or not Jake will even acknowledge this or not, that's what we saw happen to him in 5th grade, and we didn't know what was happening. We were struggling, trying to figure out why he was having issues and that kind of thing, but you've gone back to that teacher specifically and said, this was what it was, Dad. This is what it was, right?
Right.
Yeah. This is back to the letter. I tell other parents that although you might not see signs in your child at this time that the behavior of their teacher is affecting them, it can show up in later years. They need to be vocal and stand up for their child if they see inappropriate behavior of any kind, verbal or physical. Unfortunately, not much information was given regarding the disruptive actions by the student, so many comments on the local news channels are blaming her and applauding her actions to the teacher. In other words, we don't have both sides of the story. She goes on to say, I find that repulsive. Unless she physically attacked him, there's no reason for him to put his hands on her. As you mentioned, Mr. Sims already had prior suspensions for the same type of behavior, and she goes on, as I do in my article where I talk about dating back to 1999. This guy had problems. He had all sorts of stuff that he was doing. Bill.
Adrian Wiley now on Dispatch Radio.
All right, we will chime in with Mr. Wiley. Just give me 1 second and close out my thought here, Jake, with you before I let you go. When I read Lisa's letter on this topic, it felt exactly the way I felt about you. And, the pain that a parent has because we don't see those signs. And, I want to thank you so much for at least, talking so candidly about it with us this morning and sharing that. I know you couldn't be with us in studio. So I appreciate that. I love you, bud.
Yeah, no problem. I'll talk to you all later.
All right, Mr. Wiley, how are you, sir?
Brandon, you there?
There he is. How are you doing, sir?
Good. How are you?
Doing very, very good. Very blessed. How are things?
Oh, wonderful. And I'm listening to your show as I do every opportunity. And I actually just wanted to call in and talk about the topic of bullying, specifically in the schools. Both of my kids have been the victim of bullying. And ironically, it was the school officials that were the ones who were most responsible for it.
Yeah, and that was the topic of my article. I'm not letting, the Amanda Segwit case has become very high profile. She's being bullied through social media and her phones and all that. It led to her suicide. And I'm not trying to take away from student-on-student bullying, but the fact that these teachers do it and there's no accountability seems to be going unreported. And if you have 2 more, sort of testimonies to that, please share if you can.
Oh, absolutely. Well, my oldest son, who's in college now, he's 20. But when he was in high school, he had this guy that just didn't like him for whatever reason. And one day on school grounds at lunch, this guy came up to him and basically sucker punched him. Now, my son at the time was 6 foot tall, 190 pounds. I mean, he's not a small kid. But to his credit, he put his hands up after being sucker punched and said, look, man, I don't want any trouble with you. And the kid came at him again, and so finally my son responded and ended up, punching him, taking him to the ground, and subduing him. With the school's zero-tolerance policy, both of them were suspended for 10 days, and no amount of argument that I could make to the school administration would change your mind. I said, look, this is clearly a case of self-defense. There's 20 witnesses that will say, yes, he, even after being punched the first time, he tried to de-escalate, and still But the zero tolerance policies make sure that not only do our children not have the right to defend themselves when appropriate, but everybody pays the consequences, the aggressor and the defender.
Doesn't that just disgust you with our what we're teaching the children as a perspective of what justice is? There's no justice then. We don't care about who pushed first. We just care about an end result. Everybody just gets punished. It's such a, and I hate to go to a political analogy here, but it's the collective mentality. Let's just continue to pool them together. We're not going to say these are the bullies, these are the victims. We're not going to even apply any sense of blind justice. It's all about this path of least resistance so the teachers can continue to just have control.
And that's really what it is. And ironically, the opposite is true. They lack the control by doling out justice. But the case of my younger son, who's 14, now a freshman in high school, this happened last school year, was even more egregious, and it was direct bullying at the hands of school staff. I don't know if you recall, but in Pinellas County, over the past couple of years, they've been instituting the palm scanners in the school lunchrooms so that every student going through has an account, and the way that you identify this is your lunch account is to place your palm on a hand scanner. Well, as you know, I'm opposed to biometric collection, and things of that nature in the hands of government. So my son has always just paid cash for his lunch and refused to use the scanner. Well, for a year that worked fine, but at the beginning of last school year, they told my son that he had to use the palm scanner. And when he, said, no, I'll just pay cash, I don't want to use a hand scanner, he already had his lunch tray. He was at the checkout line. They actually told him that if he didn't, he was offering to pay cash, and they said if he didn't place his hand on the palm scanner, since he had already put the food on his tray, he would be stealing the food.
Absolutely.
And this was actually a lunchroom manager that told him that. So he felt like, he was between a rock and a hard place. He didn't want to steal, so they forced him to put his hand on the scanner and be included in the system. Well, I contacted the school board and got that fixed, but they put so much pressure on him, and he was so distraught over them lying to him and telling him he was going to be stealing if he didn't submit to this biometric scan.
Right. Instead of
direct case.
Yeah, instead of saying, you refuse to take cash, it's absolutely insanity. And that's where we're going, folks. We're going towards this weird twist on the transitionary phase of where we're at between today and an authoritative government is this transition, where little by little they'll push those buttons. A little by little they're going to keep pushing, and they're programming our children to accept this stuff. Well, I can't really, reject this, the palm scanning or whatever it'll be next, the barcoding, the retina scans, all the other stuff that will come along with it. Well, because this is what happens. Don't you remember what happened here? Don't you remember what happened there? And that's where it's just such a crying shame they're taking advantage of our children like this. Wow.
Oh, they are. It's a total conditioning, and if we allow Common Core standards to continue, this progression towards, turning our schools into, I hate to sound, really off the deep end here, but they're turning our schools into a kinder, gentler prison camp.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that we really have to stop and reverse in its tracks.
And the other part that I'll add to that too is they're closing the loop on information gathering that they're not getting through the electronic monitoring system at the NSA. So they're getting more details from our children as far as what's happening in all of our homes. Well,
yeah.
Adrian,
psychological evaluations and everything.
What do you think? And I know I'm going to close out with this one give you an open-ended mic here on Common Core in particular. I know you're running for governor. So as governor, how and what do you think is the immediate thing you want to do or would do to deal with Common Core and get our education into what you think is the right track?
Well, the amazing thing is that the state government has complete and total authority to reject Common Core. And I think really the solution is to basically get rid of all federal interference in our schools and even minimize the state role in our local schools. Let's get the power back to the local communities. the local school boards, because, that's where parents and teachers and students have the most direct impact. Let's keep the funding local, and let's keep the control of our schools local. We don't need the failed Department of Education or any of these bureaucratic nightmares such as the Common Core infiltrating our schools. And on the state level, we have the complete authority to stop it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for calling in. And, folks, we proudly support and have worked with Adrian and really support his campaign. You'll find tons of coverage on our website at theglobaldispatch.com. Adrian, give out your website name and, wish you well.
All right. It's WileyForGovernor.com. That's WYLLIEFOR governor.com. And thanks, Brandon. And as always, talk hard, brother.
Talk hard, brother, indeed. So, folks, I tell you what, I think that if we had more time, we'd probably could even get some more calls. And the bullying thing is a very, very intimate issue, and unfortunately, a long-lasting effect on our children when it happens to them, especially when it's the teachers. Let's switch gears. My friend, MediaMikes.com, co-founder himself, Mike Smith. How are you, my friend?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm very, very blessed. I tell you, we have a ton of news we'll have to squeeze into our segment. I know we have a big movie review that you want to get on here, the Bad Grandpa, the latest Johnny Knoxville adventure that you raved about. So I want you to get a chance to talk about that, and then we'll get into some of the news that has broken this week in upcoming films. So you like the Knoxville film?
I love it. It was, if you're familiar with the Borat film, it's really just a lot of hidden camera. Let's see how people react. But whereas Borat, people could sense he was a foreigner and didn't really seem to care how they acted. Here, I think because he's an old man, people are just going out of their way to ignore anything he does that's politically incorrect. One scene, because the film starts out with the death, in quotes here, of his wife. One scene, he calls a moving company to take their bed, to move their bed. And when they show up, he doesn't want to move the bed. She's still in bed. They help him put the body in the trunk because they don't know how to say no to an old man. And it's just hilarious, some of the stuff that he gets people to do. And also there's kind of a little backstory, a scripted story of the grandfather bonding with the grandson that I really found just a great combination of hilarity and a little sweetness.
It really is kind of funny, and I was taken back as I had looked at the film. It is rated R, folks. Be warned that it is not going to be a clean piece of work. Johnny Knoxville is involved. That's all we had to say. Johnny Knoxville's involved. But it takes me back to a Seinfeld episode I'm sure you're familiar with, where Uncle Leo is caught stealing something by Jerry, and Jerry calls him out on it, and Uncle Leo basically just says, well, we all do it. We're senior citizens. We all do it. Jerry turns to his parents, who both shrug like, yeah, we steal stuff all the time. No one says anything to the senior citizens. It's played off as a gag, and I think Knoxville's taking it to the new level, right? He's like, there's nothing that these folks can't do.
Exactly.
I mean, I saw the trailer has like where he knocks the casket over in the middle of a funeral, just completely unremorseful, completely, obnoxious about everything he does, and no one really ever gets in his face is kind of the premise of the movie. And it's just a great concept, actually. I got to give him a lot of credit for that idea. So, any other breaking reviews or anything else that you want to squeeze in real quick before I ask you about some of these great news stories?
Let's see. What do I got coming up? I got to talk to David McCallum earlier in the week. He's doing a promotional event up in Omaha for the 50th anniversary of The Great Escape, and we kind of touch on the new Man from U.N.C.L.E. film. There's a teaser there for everyone. I've got a film coming up I'm reviewing called Sal, which is James Franco directing the story of the last day in the life of Sal Mineo. That looks really interesting, and hopefully I'll be interviewing the star. I believe his name is Val Lerner. I'll be talking to him on Monday, and hopefully getting to talk to James Franco later in the week. And then next week we'll have About Time and Las Vegas to talk about,
Awesome.
which I know you loved About Time.
I absolutely did. I really, really did. And let me point out, my wife, she will hoopla. Man from Uncle, Henry Cavill. Just so we're clear, we have some Henry Cavill fans out there, Mike. Let me tell you what, they'd start a fan club if there wasn't already one. All right.
Sure.
So let's ask your opinion. You get a chance to see the Captain America Winter Soldier trailer?
I have.
Fantastic, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Just loving Marvel Studios right now. If you haven't seen the movie trailer, globaldispatch.com, click movies, movie trailer section. If you just like watching movie trailers, click that. There's a whole bunch of them there, just a whole list. Jumps out of the plane, and one soldier looks at the other. Did he have a parachute on? That was my son's favorite part. He's like, whoa. It's just so Captain America. That was just the best. It kind of captures the essence, I think, right?
Oh, I think we touched on it last week when we kind of brought up some of the Marvel films. They take the time to do them right. They know what people expect, and they honor the comic book tradition as well as whatever they need to do in the filmmaking style. So yeah, that's definitely one of the must-sees.
I wanted to get your opinion of an interesting news story that I have here with Independence Day 2, a sequel. I don't know what it's actually going to be called. They really haven't released it. That's just technically what we've nicknamed it. They actually have released the fact that they actually have a script with Will Smith and without Will Smith. I thought that was fascinating. No one in Hollywood ever admits that they're doing that. Had you heard that yet?
I kind of heard that they were talking about doing it and also talking about doing it that way.
But they never ever admit that they have two scripts simultaneously being written and fine-tuned.
Well, what I'm thinking is they'll have whatever they have Will Smith doing, they'll have another character that they'll just stick in there. After the failure of and the title just escaped me now.
After Earth.
After Earth, he might jump on a Wild Wild West sequel just to get back in the
only
theater.
To prove that After Earth wasn't that bad. I mean, is that the how far can Will Smith lower the bar? All right, so the other thing I think was just fascinating news for Star Wars fans like myself. J.J. Abrams actually let me ask this, Mike, because it doesn't usually happen when we change writers. Writers change all the time. X-Men went through multiple writers. There's all sorts of projects, and nowadays, it's common to have 3 to 5 writers on a major Hollywood film. But this was one of the first times I can remember a major film like this, a tentpole like this, where they send out an actual press release, like a detailed, 300-word press release to announce that J.J. Abrams was going to make sure that he took over the script. I'm not saying that the script is going to be redone or is taken away from what had already been accomplished, but that was a very bizarre tactic, don't you think too?
Well, I think it's also part of the Disney looking to get any promotion any time out there. I think the fact that he's including Lawrence Kasdan is great because Kasdan, along with Lee Brackett, wrote Empire Strikes Back. I think it just almost makes me anticipate this film more.
Oh, Larry if Kasdan's involved, I mean, it actually that's to me the best thing that could happen to the Star Wars franchise, is to have him more intricately involved, even if it's just at a higher level with organizing things, because his vision is so spot on to what fans like us want. Let me turn to X-Men. Did you see the multitude of photos that came out?
No, I haven't.
All right, so check that out on the Global Dispatch. There's probably about a dozen photos, and it kind of helps you see the futuristic side of what Magneto and Professor X will look like, what the 1970s version of the X-Men First Class group is going to look like. There's 2 photos of Jennifer Lawrence painted up as Mystique. Pretty cool. And if you don't know, trailer comes on Tuesday.
Excellent. Well, I was really, just at the end of Wolverine, just that little 3 or 5 minute segment with him and Ian McKellen at the airport. That already fired me up. So.
All right, so let me ask a question. Now, we don't talk a lot of TV. I know you're the movie guru. And do you watch Sherlock, the BBC Sherlock?
I do not.
We got to get you some Netflix, and we got to get you caught up, because it is possibly some of the best television I've ever seen. However, for those of you that do, they did confirm finally for the Americans. I don't know exactly what the Brits are going to get. We do get Sherlock season 3. in January. My daughter will hoopla in the background. Do you watch a lot of TV?
I watch a little bit. Unfortunately, most of my screenings are at night.
Yeah.
And I know they have a DVR, but I just never think to tape it. I mean, I foolishly made the mistake a couple weeks ago of watching the pilot for Breaking Bad. So now I've got to find the DVD series and catch up when everybody else has been talking about.
Don't buy the DVDs, Mike. Just $8 a month. Just get Netflix for a couple months. You'll be all right.
Oh.
It's fantastic.
Oh, it is on Netflix. I have Netflix. I don't even use it.
Well, see, folks, call Netflix and say, listen, you need to advertise with the globaldispatch.com and the Dispatch Radio Show because they love you. So we actually just took a break from Netflix, but I tell people all the time, it's for $8, you're going to catch up on all this stuff. So, folks, MediaMikes.com, tons and tons of great reviews, great stuff coming up. Check out their website. Mike and Mike do a fantastic job. I cannot praise them enough, and I thank you so much, and I will talk to you again soon, my friend.
All right, have a good week. Bye-bye.
All right, see you. All right, we're going to run down a few different announcements and things that are going on. We have some great stuff coming up over the next few weeks. If you happen to be in the Tampa Bay area, you don't have anything going on tonight in preparation of Halloween, we have a church event we call Pumpkin Patch. It's a nice little carnival, safe things for kids to do. So if you're in the Tampa Bay area, you can check that out. It's at East Point Assembly of God in Tampa. And you can check that out tonight from 5 to 7. Now, next week, Bob will be in studio, and I will not be in the studio. And he has on a couple different folks. He will have on Dr. G. Keith Smith, managing partner and medical director of the Surgery Center of Oklahoma. And he will have Jody James on, Florida Cannabis Action Network. So Bob will be running the amazing Dispatch Radio Show, and it will be great to hear about the health and disease from Mr. Worms and Germs himself. Let me run down real quick. Just there's a local, we do a lot of support of the local arts and theaters. Patel Conservatory has some great stuff coming up. There's a article that we did there, an acting class called Just for Kicks. It has stuff they do for kids and adults. It has another presentation for kids called A Little Princess. They also have some new acting classes coming out with a Quentin Darrington. I believe he's the Broadway guy who did Ragtime and Memphis and some of that stuff. So Patel Conservatory over at the Strass Center. Great stuff, great partners with us. We appreciate all that they've ever done for us as well. So, what a day. I'm making Bill work. I tell you what, a great day. It's a great time. Check out all that we do at theglobaldispatch.com. Check in every Saturday morning beginning at 7:30 with our Outbreak News and Dispatch Radio from 8 to 9. Have a good